Building downtown. Building downtown.
So I was born in Iran and in 1981, and it was during war. There was a lot of, there was an Iraq and Iran war, so there was a lot of bombing. And as a child, we were running in and out of bomb shelters. We were just trying to survive. So obviously, my parents were really concerned about the way things were going. They were concerned about our safety, so they decided to come to Canada for a better life.
Okay.
So in Canada, I was around 9 years old.
Okay. And what was it like leaving Iran to come to Canada? What were the struggles there that you and your family went through?
Well, as children, our parents always try and protect us to not see the worst. But, when you hear the bombs going and planes flying and everybody's panicking as a child, that kind of stays with you. And so, and moving around a lot was the other issue that as children is never good, right? Because you need a steady schedule, you need a steady life. So that was the other hard part. So it was just about survival.
Okay. And how young of an age did you start realizing survival is a thing you're going to need, considering where you came from? Canada is a completely different place than the Middle East and some of the problems they've had for decades over there.
I think I noticed it when I was around 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what was schooling like over there? Like the reason I ask is because I'm friends with people from parts of the world that have been involved in wars, like Serbia and Bosnia and places like that. And they came over here with their families, and they've told me, like at school here, we have fire drills as kids, right? If there's a fire that breaks out, this is what you're supposed to do. They had if somebody gets shot, this is what you're supposed to do.
We had a lot of drills for situations if there was a bombing. I don't remember for shootings really anything at all, but I do remember that one day we woke up and it was, we heard that the school was hit. So obviously we didn't go to school. Shortly after, we packed up and we drove to another city. So it was, they try to protect us from seeing as much as they can, but in a war zone, you can't really, you can't hold back a lot of things. So I do remember, a lot of times we were just on the road and stuff. And luckily I had siblings, so I always had friends with me, but, it could be really lonely for children that age to not have that steady connection and schooling and stuff.
So the journey from Iran to Canada, tell us about that. How did that work? What did you go through? What was the process?
So my dad came to Canada first. He got a job, and my mom she was a teacher. She taught art back home. So, she had saved her money, and through the years that my father was here, they had saved enough money to leave the country. And then a few years after my dad arrived, we arrived to Canada and, started learning English, getting used to going to school and, just being in a good environment as far as, it was safe, it was wonderful, but there was different challenges that we were faced with as new immigrants.
Yeah, you tweeted something recently, and I did want to touch on this, and I'm sure there was more of it. It was something like you got called a Paki a lot when you first came to Canada and you were in school because of discrimination.
It started in grade 6. And there was a group of kids, and I barely spoke English. I was trying to just get around and just learn, make friends. And that was the first thing I remember is this kid telling me, "You're fucking Paki, go back home." So
Jesus,
I started thinking about racism at a very young age.
And that's a shitty age to move like that anyway, without kids being assholes like that.
Kids are cold, though, right?
Yes. There's a lot of bullying going on, but when it's things like race or your language, you're really behind from, it's really hard to fight for yourself. So it was challenging times, but I quickly moved past it. I learned English quickly. My parents were very they're very strict about speaking English at home. So we learned as quickly as we could. And after a couple of years of, learning to just fight for myself, whether it was fist fighting or using my words, I got through it, and I started standing up for other people, and I started standing up to bullies. So something good came out of it.
I guess so. Did that racism and discrimination that you felt when you first came to Canada make you feel a certain way about whether it be Canadians, white people, other ethnicities? I'm not saying you're still that way, but at that age, did it make you feel a certain way? Basically the same way you were being treated and put in a certain box. Did you start developing those feelings towards white people or whoever it may be?
Not so much white people, because, as a child, these things are something that you have to kind of be, somebody has to explain, you have to see it. You have to, we didn't watch TV that much. TV wasn't the same back then. My parents were never racist. We went to an area where it was full of all kinds of different races. There was a lot of Black people, there was a lot of Filipinos. So I never really felt that, it was a white thing until I hit, until he said that to me in grade 6. And then that kind of stayed with me. And then later on in high school, and as I got older, I got to see how, race is a factor in a lot of things. So as a child, I didn't really notice it, but, the things that were happening later on brought me to that conclusion.
Do you feel like the pressure of racism, do you feel like the pressure of racism dies down a bit as you get assimilated more? As your accent goes away more, as you get more native, the pressure falls off, or do you think it kept pursuing you?
Racism, sorry, are
in terms of, you think you were picked on more because you had more of an accent, you were still learning the language and you were still fresh, and as you assimilated, it kind of fade off a bit? Or do you think
I don't think it faded out at all. I just think I learned to deal with it differently.
Okay.
I learned to be outspoken about it. I've learned to stand up to bullies. And, as a woman, it's a different type of experience as well. Like, so there's a lot of factors that played a role in why I became a police officer, why I am the way I am. So, it's just like a mixture. But racism, I don't think it has faded in any way at all. I think that
the reason the reason I asked that is because I'm an immigrant too, right? And I feel about just my experience is obviously different, right? Everybody's experience is a little different, but I feel like my as soon as my accent, I still got one, obviously, right? But as soon as it started falling off more and I started feeding it a bit more, it was still present, but it was more behind a back kind of thing. When I had more so when I had a bigger accent, when it was more permanent or prominent, I mean. It was like everybody was like, "Oh, look at that guy!" Right? When I started fading in more, it was still there, but I felt like it was falling off a bit.
I see what, like, your point for sure. My accent actually is funny because a lot of people have always asked me if I'm French or, they can't really figure it out. So it's
really,
yeah.
That's the last thing I would think you are.
I think
the accent, though, right?
Person and their experiences,
It is a different accent. It's foreign to me. It's not, you know what I mean? I've never.
Yeah, I guess. It's
different.
So you get here. Where did you go to high school? Like what city?
Toronto.
Okay.
I went to St. Sandford Fleming.
Okay.
Which was right behind Yorkdale Mall.
Oh, the good part of town.
Those are some good years. And then I switched to Newtonburg Secondary School, which was at Yonge and Steeles.
Okay, so at what point through high school, because everybody in high school, I was going to be a professional hockey player, professional basketball player. I was going to be an accountant. I was going to be something different every week through high school, right? At what point was it you were just dedicated to becoming a police officer?
I've always had this strong personality, and I get that from my mother. She was always very, compassionate person, very kind, but very stern. Like you knew you can't fuck with her, you know. And so those are qualities that I saw in policing. I thought, you know, this is a very good, like I would make her proud. So in like near the end of high school, I started talking to my mom about it, and you know, she was like, no, this is dangerous, don't do that. I want you to be a dentist, you know, Persian mothers. And, yeah, like, and so she passed away tragically, actually, when I was 19. So that was the deciding factor, was that I was going to follow my dream and just make her proud.
Oh, wow. That's a young age to lose a parent. What did she pass away from, if you don't mind me asking?
She died tragically. She went to London, England, for, you know, visiting family and stuff. And one day I got a call from the police in London, and they said that she had died. We couldn't, you know, afford to go there. It was just very tough times, so we couldn't figure out what happened to her, and they just closed her case as cold case.
Damn. So you go on to, what did you go to? Police foundations, or what? Like, what's the first step in that? Like leaving high school to become a police officer.
I left high school. I didn't become a police officer. I didn't like start going into right after idea. Yeah, because, you know, shortly after my mom passed away, like around 19, I was still trying to figure out, you know, she wanted to be a dentist. So I was trying to figure out OACs, you know, all those stuff. Then she passed away. So I was dealing with her grief for a year and then something was just like, get the hell out of bed, go do something with your life. So that's when I got up and started to volunteer. I started to do security work. I became a big sister for Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Peel. I got a job in Toronto Housing, and slowly I built my resume to apply to become a police officer.
Building downtown.